We got a video by Dr. Phil today that nobody has ever heard of in the history of mankind. This is anti-white racism. Exactly, guys. I've never heard of it. Apparently it happens, okay? A growing trend in America. And I joke, guys. Obviously, you can be racist towards any group of people, including us whites. Like, comment, subscribe, drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Let's hear what Dr. Phil has to say about the issue.
Well, tonight, a hot button topic. We're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Uh-oh, DEI. The scourge of 2024.
Three words that have become a battleground in America's ongoing struggle with race and opportunity. Now, as lawsuits mount and the Supreme Court strikes down DEI initiatives, people are asking, have these policies created the very discrimination they sought to eliminate? And why do some, in particular, some white men increasingly feel they're being sacrificed on the altar of diversity? Respected scholars argue that DEI has tragically backfired, setting up minority communities for failure rather than success. Daniel, a young white man, says he feels that DEI policies are making him a victim of reverse racism. Take a look.
Reverse racism. Ain't never heard of that one, guys, have you?
I feel like people are getting an unfair advantage because of their skin color. I grew up in a predominantly white area. I come from nothing. I was on free lunch in high school, which is like the lowest. So I got a full ride because I grew up in a single mother household. When I got to college, there was this huge emphasis on race. DEI is just fundamentally wrong. Why should a rich black kid have an advantage over a white kid like me who was on food stamps in high school? I remember I got
That's kind of a good point, actually. Yeah, that's kind of a good point.
to my college, and in my very first month, I could not participate in a debate tournament because I was white.
What? You couldn't debate with other nationalities. Hey, white boy, get back in your box.
Male confidence is simply under attack. I mean, who's committing the most suicides? It's white men. Well, I think a lot of white people are seeing this.
Yeah, us whites, we have this issue with anxiety. You don't have anxiety, guys, if you hit the gym, if you become a jiu-jitsu master. You don't have any stupid anxiety. To me, I've never experienced anxiety. Anxiety doesn't exist in my world. Or depression. Okay, and how I've cured those two things by never having them is just by becoming a lethal weapon, guys, alright? Hitting the weights, jiu-jitsu master, all that shit, guys. Hit the weights, man. Don't become another flipping statistic.
Anti-white sentiment, and they're feeling unfair because they look at these universities and they say white people founded these universities, white people founded America, and yet now we're treated like second-class people. And when there's classes called the problem of whiteness, when there's fellowships that ban white students, I think that is a clear sign of one group being treated as beneath another. I went to Twitter, I called out a professor teaching a class called the problem of whiteness, and that led her to call me a cyber terrorist. The New York Times wrote an article, and the headline says, "U Chicago, cyberbullying or free speech." And I thought it totally...
Everybody's a cyber terrorist in 2024, apparently. The UK, the worst country in the world, locked up like 3,000 people over cyber terrorism or something.
Prove my point that white people today cannot even speak up about injustice without being treated like a second-class person. I think the treatment black people received is different because white people are a majority in this country. Black people were always a minority. I think it is different when the majority of the country is treated like a second-class group. I think it's disgraceful. I think if you went to China and you said the problem of Chinese people, they would arrest you. I think if you went to Russia, they would arrest you. And so I'm not saying we should arrest people, but I think we should have some respect for white people because they made America possible.
This guy sounds a bit too right-wing for me, guys.
Daniel, thanks for being here. You feel like this has whipped around and you're paying the price for it.
Absolutely. I remember my very first month in college, I was banned from a debate tournament because I was white.
And I know that's crazy. America's stupid, bro. I love America, but some of America is stupid, bro. Banning someone because they're white.
Sounds like a nerdy example, but I think it's just a testament that it has gotten so crazy, and even on the smallest things, and it's normalized. I was sitting in this room, the kids were saying, yeah, white people are not allowed because, you know, you guys have been winning too much and we need to even the playing field. And I'm looking around and no one is startled, no one is saying, wait a second. And it just startles me how normalized it is, how unapologetic it is. And I'm just worried what's going to happen in the future. And I don't want to raise any children in a world that simply hates them for being white. I think that's a fair demand. And I hope America can reach a point where we're simply treated for what we add to society and what we bring and for actually being a good person.
You know what's funny? Like the whole thing about it is like it's interesting that he says that like that. You know, treated badly because of white people. But I mean, it's kind of like anything though. It's like if you're basically, it's like an issue. Like if you're basically not wanting to participate or banned from being participating, that's probably not a good thing, guys. You want to have everyone have their voice, right?
Do you agree that we should strive to have equal opportunity for everybody?
Absolutely.
And do you agree?
It's funny because it's not really like white or black or Chinese or whatever, Asian or Brazilian. It's like, or South African or Mexican. It's like whether or not the person has money or not. It's more sense of that. Like a lot of white people are poor. Like in Europe, we think that all Americans are rich, white or black. But it's not like that at all. I think in America they think that all white people are rich. It's like it's not like that at all, right?
That there are members of our society, particularly, I'll start by talking about the black community, that does not have equal opportunity.
Well, see, I don't really agree with that because...
Okay, here we go. He doesn't agree that certain communities have less ability. Obviously, if you're born like a really poor place, like really really poor area of the U.S., then you're gonna have less chance to go to college than the next guy or whatever. But I don't know does it limit your money making skills. But if you're born in the south of America, like Alabama or these places, you're gonna have less earning rights or less earning power than a guy from New York, right?
Under the affirmative action system, which only recently ended in 2022, a black kid who went to boarding school in New Hampshire, whose parents worked on Wall Street, who had every advantage, they would still have an advantage in the system than someone like me, who grew up in a single mother household, was low income. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Isn't that the exception and not the rule in the black community? Most black youth don't go to a boarding school in Connecticut. They tend to be overrepresented in the lower socioeconomic strata in America. I mean, that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
I still don't see that as a valid reason to give one group an advantage over another.
That wasn't my question.
Oh, okay.
My question was, do you agree that they may not have equal opportunity as a group?
Yes, absolutely, they have obstacles.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I'm not a fan of DEI. I don't think it helps them. I don't think it helps level the playing field. I think it's the wrong approach to a real problem. I'm just saying, do you acknowledge that the problem exists?
Sure, I do.
You think it actually makes racism worse. Why?
Well, I think it makes racism worse for several reasons. I think number one, we're treating white people wrong for their skin color. We're treating them differently for their skin color. That is racist in nature. And yet you don't see many people talking about it. And I called it out on my school. A professor called me a cyber terrorist. The New York Times.
Yeah, they just call you a terrorist for anything nowadays, I suppose, because he called that out. That's pretty funny.
He's called me a cyber bully. I think that's absurd. I think if a black student called out blatant racism, they would be hailed as a hero. They'd probably receive some awards. Number two, people are going to start wondering, did my doctor actually deserve to be here? Or are they a doctor because of affirmative action? Are my pilots actually meant to be here? Or are they here because of a quota? And I think that's going to clearly lead to racism.
There are a lot of very successful black professionals that say they live under the pale of that, with people questioning them when they say they worked damn hard to get where they were, and people go, oh, well, you got here because you got a free pass.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, it actually makes it so people look down on people.
Yeah.
And they resent that.
I think today, if you're a young white guy growing up in high school, middle school, odds are, you're going to have a teacher who says white people are evil. You should feel white guilt. You should feel white fragility. And I just worry that's going to discourage people who are white from pursuing greatness.
Do you think white privilege is real?
Absolutely not. Not today.
Yeah. You don't think it's real today, but you think it's maybe been real in the past?
Sure. Historically, yeah.
You were labeled a bully and essentially a racist for saying what you were saying.
Yeah, and I think this is exactly why white people are so afraid of speaking out about the most blatant injustices imaginable. They don't want to be canceled. They don't want to be called these mean things. And so they just sit back. But they have to speak up. And so that is my goal above anything else.
I don't think anyone's getting canceled for saying we should all be equal in 2024, guys. I don't think anyone's getting canceled for that. But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they are. I still, get work and stuff like that. So, keys are there.
I simply want to instill confidence. I want to say, you need to speak up about this wrong, about this injustice, about this grotesque.
In the middle of the video. Keys are there.
discrimination against white people, because again, it's only going to get worse. And I fear where it's going to go.
And where is that?
I think, you know, I hear, for example, at Yale, a psychiatrist said she has fantasies of shooting white people. And no one spoke up, no one did anything. I fear we're going to get to this most blatant, borderline genocidal rhetoric if it doesn't stop here. I mean, they're going to keep going and going because they're getting away with it. And I truly feel like
I think this is mainly just in universities, though. I think this is more of a university culture than anything.
These people, they hate white people because they think they're evil. They think they have done evil things. And so they project that hatred onto the current white people. I have nothing to do with what my ancestors did. I was born 2003, single mother household, pretty much broke. And I'm not going to apologize for what happened in the past if they say that's what's needed.
Well, you can't put that on an entire race of people.
Of course not.
I mean, you're saying that's what black people think.
No, I'm not saying that's what all think, but I do think there is a contingent of black academics and black politicians who...
Right. So it's not the people... I mean, guys, everyone around me, everyone thinks the same, whatever color or race or creed or background. Like, you know, we're all from the same background. But some people in these elite institutions might think, oh, these people are worse, these people are better. You know, it's a bit unfair.
Legitimately want to make white people go through the same stuff black people maybe went through 100 years ago. They feel like it's now white people's obligation to face that same level of discrimination. And my only question is, where is this going to stop? I do believe in black privilege when it comes to things like university admissions, when it comes to things like job applications. I think black people today, because of things like BLM, they have an advantage simply because of their skin color. And I think that's proven. I think when it comes
this guy's going on, bro. This guy's going off.
To job applications, in 2021, 94% of stock market jobs went to people of color, even though I think they only make up 40% of the population.
That's actually what 94% of stock trader jobs. What do you say? Stock trader jobs. Where does he even get that statistic? Hold on a second.
And I think that's proven. I think when it comes to job applications, in 2021, 94% of stock market jobs went to people of color.
Stock market jobs. So like people that were like that are like Chinese, like different black people. Like it's 94%. That's actually wild. Stock market jobs, wow.
Even though I think they only make up 40% of the population. That is a privilege because of their blackness. And I think it comes from this idea that black people have a disadvantage. Even though we're 50 plus years from segregation, 100 plus years from slavery, we're still under this idea that black people have it harder than whites, and therefore they need some advantage.
Bro, in America, they're just so delusional. Like, everyone they're in like the best country to make the most money. It's absurd. You can't make that kind of money that they make in America in Europe. I mean, you kind of can, but like not at the same level. Like, people would disagree with me on that. I don't care. You just don't see it. Like, maybe you do see it in England, but it's more behind the scenes, more behind the curtains. But I don't think anyone's at a disadvantage in the U.S., man. It's crazy. Like.
Well, my next guest has a PhD in constitutional history and is the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Dr. Betsy McCoy. You've been listening to Daniel.
Yes.
What do you have to say about what he's saying?
Well, there is a real problem. And just in the last 2 years, you can see that there have been so many lawsuits across the country against Macy's, Disney, against Gannett newspapers, against very large corporations that are setting quotas for how many minorities will occupy seats in management, for example. And once you set a particular number, it's inevitable that managers have to push aside the resumes from some of the young white men in order to meet those quotas.
I ain't never heard about this before. This is actually news to me, guys. So they're basically pushing away I mean, I would just change my name. I would just have my name as something that's like generic to like all white, black, Asian, you know, like Sean or something. That could be anything. You could be flipping Irish. You could be flipping Chinese. You could be anything. You could be flipping Korean. Sean, you know, or something like, you know, that's like super. You wouldn't be able to tell, you know. Equity.
It sounds like the word equality, but really it's just the opposite. It means using preferences for minorities and women. And the inevitable result is that white men are disadvantaged. They go to the back of the line. I'll just give you two examples. The American Rescue Act had two provisions in it. The first one provided debt relief for farmers, but only black farmers. White farmers need not apply. I can tell you that the white farmers in northern New York, the dairy farmers, really needed that debt relief, but they were ineligible. Secondly, restaurant owners were devastated by COVID. So the law provided relief for them, but only for minority restaurant owners and women restaurant owners. Both of these provisions.
That's wild. Like if you own a Chinese restaurant, you get flipping priority over someone that owns, like, I don't even know what would be like a white-owned business. I don't know, dairy farmers or something. I don't know. Like she said,
provisions were overturned in federal court because they violate the 14th Amendment. The precious American notion that we're all treated the same.
So let's take a look.
That's a cool amendment that they have, guys. The 14th Amendment, the Constitution, that everyone's treated the same. It's kind of that's a good thing that they have.
Look at equity versus equality. Equality treats people the same. Identical resources, opportunities, regardless of individual needs. Equity adjusts resources and opportunities based on specific needs to achieve fair outcomes for everyone. The key difference is equality is uniform treatment. Equity are fair outcomes by addressing different needs.
Right.
And this gets into something that's being really subjective, what the people that are administering the program value, if it's race or if it's gender or what, they can just decide, and then they start dispensing things based on trying to create some outcome, correct?
Like if there's not enough loggers, like people that shut down, or like fishermen, that are women, they'd say, okay, let's get more women in this profession. But the thing is, guys, like, bro, men don't even want to work half those jobs that are super physical and tough and laborious. Like, why the hell would women want to work those jobs? In my head, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, that's a very tough job. A logger, some guy chopping down trees all day with a chainsaw, some guy fishing up flipping, seaweed and flipping starfish, lobsters all day long. Like, it's obviously a very tough job. You think, like, why the hell would women want to work that? But, that's kind of how it is, guys. It's diversity until the point where they don't want the jobs, because most people wouldn't work those jobs.
Correct.
It's very subjective, but as you just pointed out, Dr. Phil, it's not necessarily fair, because it's not true that only minority restaurant owners needed help. There were plenty of white male restaurant owners who were in deep trouble during COVID. They had to shut down. They lost their businesses. But they were told just because of the color of their skin, and those white farmers were told just because of the color of their skin, they were ineligible.
And you say the best way to end racial discrimination is to stop discriminating based on race, period, whether it's white, black, whatever.
And I borrowed that from Chief Justice John Roberts.
Here's John Roberts' quote about that. The way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. And that means you got to dial that out.
Right. And by the way, I'm very sympathetic to helping young African American or other minority kids who want to go to college, but don't do it based on their race. Let's have economic affirmative action. Let's make sure the kids who start without any advantages get a leg up based on their circumstances, not their race.
Yeah, I agree with the objective.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, if you're white, black, doesn't really matter. If you're poor, you're going to have a hard time. Like I said, guys, everybody in Europe thinks that everybody in America is rich, but it's really not the case. And I think everybody in America thinks that if you're, white guy from New York or Connecticut, you're going to be rich. But that's not how it works,
I disagree with the methodology. And so do most of the people that have actually studied this and studied the impact. People want to curry favor with a certain demographic, then they'll beat this drum. But if people want to look at the impact, then it's very clear that this doesn't work. Affirmative action didn't work. DEI doesn't work. It just doesn't work. If you really want to help this population, then there are other ways to do it, but those programs have not been successful.
And Daniel, you touched my heart, because why should you have to feel white guilt? In fact, why should any child ever have to feel guilt? This idea of inherited guilt, what if we told German Americans who live in this country now that they couldn't vote because their ancestors under Hitler did terrible things?
That's a good point. That's a good point, actually. Damn, I never even thought about
Americans
that.
don't believe in inherited guilt. We all get a fair chance.
Yeah, America's like that kind of fair chance country. I absolutely love it, guys. Yeah, it's kind of like telling, like, could you imagine saying to, like, Germans or something, oh, you can't do this because your ancestors under the flipping Nazi rule did this crazy stuff during World War II. No, that's not how it works, guys. We judge people based on, you know, their actions and how hard people work, you know. Thankfully, thank God. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, guys, check out my link in the description down below for Patreon. Okay, which is €5 a month. Help support me every single month. I love you all. I'll see you guys in the next one, man. Peace.